Okay, so now that we have a basic understanding of the Azure Resource Manager model, let's take a look at ARM templates themselves. These are the things we really care about from a deployment standpoint. And the first thing to think about is ARM templates are really the mechanism that we apply infrastructure as code. So the example on the screen there, don't worry too much about the code yet, we'll get into that later, but we define a JSON file full of code that says, hey, this is how I want my infrastructure to be deployed, and then ARM is the mechanism by which we do that. We download templates from the Azure portal if we want to. So if we've built something manually in the UI, we can download a template from everything we deployed. If you go into your resource groups, you'll actually see your deployments there that you can grab the code from. In addition, you could simply author new templates. If you're pretty comfortable with the language and you know to go to the providers like Microsoft.storage, Microsoft.compute, certainly could author new templates from scratch once you're pretty comfortable. However, you'll probably find it's much easier to start with quick start templates provided by Microsoft as a quick way to get going. And quick start templates are available in the two links below. You can see there we have the azure.microsoft.com resources templates link, and then we have the GitHub link as well. And I'm going to go to the GitHub link first of all. Now if we select this one, you can see on the GitHub page, if we scroll down, loads and loads of examples for us. Azure Container Service, Application Gateway, Azure DNS. Almost every single Azure service created, somebody has probably created an ARM template for it, and it's available on GitHub. So there's plenty here to actually choose from. The next thing we need to know are what are the different types of files that we will use with ARM. Well, we have our ARM template file itself. This is the main file that describes the configuration of our infrastructure in JSON syntax. If we want to, we can also have an optional parameters file. This allows us to separate out parameters that we want to pass into the template, so rather than typing them in as we deploy the template, we can simply create a file full of those parameters. And finally, we have our deployment scripts. So these are things like PowerShell, etc., that can actually take the ARM template, or it could be that we deploy the ARM template via REST API, but this is our mechanism for taking the infrastructure as code and applying it to Azure. Next, we have our ARM template construct. So as you'll see in the demos, when we open up an ARM template, we have a number of sections. For one, we have the parameter section. This allows us to define those inputs that we want, and again, we can pass them in at the time of creation or via a parameters file. We also have variables, so these are values that you can use throughout your templates. If there's something that we use over and over again, it doesn't really make sense to type it in every section of code. We can simply declare it as a variable and reuse over and over again. Then we have our resources. This is the main part really of defining the resources we wish to construct in Azure, so we'll use resource definitions for that section. And finally, we have outputs, which are also optional, and these are values that are returned after the ARM template deployment is completed. For example, perhaps we want to output a public IP address or something like that, then we would output those from the ARM template. So that gives you a brief overview, and I encourage you to just check out the subsequent demonstration. That will guide you through ARM templates, creating a basic one, and working through the various pieces that we've covered here.